And the disciples say, you want us to go into town and spend like 200 days worth of money on food? You want us to spend 9 months of money just to feed this crowd today? He said, even we gave you want us to go do that? And he said, how many loaves do you have? Go and see. And when they knew, they said to him, 5 and 2 fish. Over in Matthew chapter 14, in verse, I'm trying to find it here. He said, you give them something to eat. And they said, we have here but 5 loaves and 2 fish. And then he said, bring them here to me. Now, one of 2 things here. Either disciples already knew what they had, but in Mark, it says he told them to go and see what they had. So more than likely, they had to go and take an inventory. And we know the story about this lad that had his 2-piece fish dinner. The loaves are not loaves of bread like you go buy at the store. If you actually look at the translation, the loaf they're talking about, it's about the size, I'll call it a biscuit. That's a familiar term here in the West. He had 5 biscuits, and the fish were not, great big rock bass that big. No, it was for lunch. He had 5 biscuits and probably 2 fish, 6, 8 inches long. Okay, something like that. That's what this boy had. They're like, who's got, anybody here have anything to eat? What do we have to eat? And this boy said, well, I got my lunch. What do you got, boy? I got 5 biscuits and 2 fish. They're like, this is good. This is good. We're going to take this to Jesus, and he's going to see, oh, that's not enough for all these people. Go ahead and send them away. If that's all we got, go ahead and send them away. This boy said, okay, yeah, here, you can have it. And they took this to Jesus. Say, hey, Jesus, you can stop teaching for a minute. We found out what we have to give everybody, in order to feed everybody. Okay, what do you got? 5 loaves and 2 fish. In the natural, that doesn't sound like it's going to work. Jesus said, well, bring them here to me. Okay. So they give him this, probably a little picnic basket. He says, okay, this will work. Command everybody to sit down. And then he took the 5 loaves and the 2 fish and pleaded for God. Oh, God, I got all these people I got to take care of today. I need a miracle. Oh, God. No, he didn't do that. He blessed it. He didn't plead with God. He didn't ask, oh, God. No, it says he looked up to heaven and blessed the food. He blessed the seed that had been sown into his ministry. This offering was given to his disciples. They gave it to Jesus. Jesus blessed it and then broke the bread and gave the biscuits to his disciples and the disciples to the multitude. Catch this fact. All right, let's stop right there for a second. There was a need. The disciples were concerned for the people. They literally were concerned for the people. They had a true concern. They weren't being selfish. Jesus, it's getting late. We're wore out. Get rid of this crowd so we can go rest. No, that wasn't their concern. It's that Jesus is getting late. It's going to be dark soon. These people don't have anything to eat. You need to send them away so they can have time to get into town so they can go eat dinner. Jesus said, I don't know where you feed them. So there was a need. The disciples were concerned for the need. Jesus had been teaching them all day long. Do you think Jesus knew it was getting late? Yeah, probably. Did that concern him? No. The disciples were tired. They wanted Jesus to wrap things up so they could get some rest. Yes. But they just told Jesus, hey, they need to go get something to eat. They need to go get some rest. We need some rest. It's time to end this. Okay, let's cut this sermon short. Let's cut this healing service short. They need to leave. So they brought this problem to Jesus. And Jesus said, someone who is needing your help, you don't need to send them away just because it's getting late. You need to help them take care of the need. Jesus told his disciples, or the disciples told Jesus what they needed, and they told him what the people needed. So do you think Jesus knows the need? Yes. And instead of saying, yeah, this is a huge crowd, boys, and really, I don't know if the villages have enough food for all these people, but they need to go find out. No, he didn't say that. He said, what do you have that we can take care of this need? A few weeks back, I did a teaching on Moses. Do you remember when God was talking to Moses in the book of Exodus? He said, I want you to go and tell Pharaoh, let my people go. And Moses was giving all these arguments, and God said, what do you have in your hand? And all Moses had was a stick, his walking stick. And we covered how that was really the only possession Moses owned, because he slept in his father-in-law's tent. He ate his father-in-law's food. He took care of his father-in-law's sheep. He married his father-in-law's daughter. I mean, the only thing Moses had to his name was that walking stick. And God said, what's in your hand? He goes, this stick. He said, give it to me. Throw it down before me. So Moses what's a stick? Okay. Threw it down. That stick turned into a snake. And Moses said, you can have the stick. Not a problem. I'll find another one. And fled. And God said, no, come back here. Pick it up by the tail. Now, any person with any, I won't even say smarts, it's just common sense. You do not pick up a snake by the tail. But God said, pick it up, do it just like I say, pick it up by the tail. Moses picked that. As soon as he touched that thing, turned back into a stick again. And he said, I will be with you when you go. In other words, this stick is going to be a reminder of me. Everywhere you go and that stick goes, I am with you. Okay? The disciples knew how Jesus operated. And Jesus is telling the people here, or telling his disciples here, bring what you have, give it to me. The disciples thought they were going to be slick. And they found out, now I am sure if they polled the people, there was going to be more food in that crowd than 5 biscuits and 2 fish. All right. They may have had, 200 biscuits and 12 fish. I don't know. But the thing is, when they found out this boy only had a 2-piece fish dinner with 5 biscuits, they said, we'll take this to Jesus, and he'll see just how impossible this situation is. He'll listen to us. They had, remember, they already had it. Look at it from this. We didn't even cover this part. They had already completed an inventory of how much money they had and how much they could spend. They had already estimated how much money it would cost to feed all these people if Jesus sent them into town to buy food. They calculated it'd be 200 denarii to feed this group of people. That was 1 day of wages for one person. So it cost almost 8 or 9 months of daily wages to feed that entire group of people. So Jesus tells them, go get an inventory of the food. So the disciples go. They do a quick survey till they find this boy who only has 5 biscuits and 2 fish. And they come back. Again, they were not 5, 10-pound fish. They were palm-sized, probably even dried fish, because otherwise the fish will go rotten. So that's even smaller, when you're having a dried fish. Remember, this is just one little boy's lunch. He couldn't carry a lot, so it had to fit all inside one little basket. And little boy, impressed by Jesus, he's there, he's listening to Jesus, seeing all these miracles, and they come around, Jesus is looking to see who has food, because we want to try and get enough together where everybody can eat. And who has some food here? This little boy holds up this little basket. These little bread offering baskets, they're not like the Yogi Bear picnic basket, all right? They're not that big. They're actually just slightly bigger than the palm size of your hand, maybe a fist and a half. About that big, all right? Like that, hold up on camera. That's the size of these baskets. And, they brought that to Jesus. And when that boy said, Jesus can have my lunch if he can do something with it, that's the kind of faith God can operate with. It may not look like anything in the natural. This boy willingly gave his lunch. Something was precious to him. Gave his lunch to Jesus. Well, he gave it to the disciples. The disciples took it to Jesus. Jesus received the offering, said, bring it to me. They gave Jesus the bread. Jesus blessed the offering. He blessed it. All right. Now, the blessing activates God in the offering. Right? He said, he blessed the offering. He looked up to heaven, did not plead with God. He looked up into heaven and blessed it. Multiply. That's the blessing. That's the command. I bless this, Father. This offering came into our ministry. In the natural, it doesn't look like much, but Lord, it looks like a lot in your eyes. And right now, I command it to multiply. And then he gave it back to the disciples. Not just one. It says he broke. He blessed and broke and gave the biscuits to his disciples. And over in Mark, he commanded the disciples to distribute to the multitude. Let's turn back over there. Mark chapter 6. Where did it? Oh, I was in 5. No wonder it was finding what I was looking for. And trying to find it here again. Mark chapter 6. Okay, right here. He commanded they sit down by companies upon the green grass, verse 39. They sat down in ranks by hundreds and by 50s. And when the disciples had taken the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, or when Jesus had taken the 5 loaves and 2 fish, he looked up to heaven and blessed it, broke the loaves, gave to his disciples to set before them, and the 2 fish he divided among them all. And they all ate, and they were filled, in verse 42. In Matthew chapter 13, verse 20, they all ate and were filled. They took up fragments of rain, 12 basketfuls, and we'll get into that in a second. Jesus blessed it and commanded to multiply. Jesus did not suddenly start passing out hundreds of loaves of bread and hundreds of fish. No, he broke the biscuits. Remember, he had 12 disciples, right? So let's just we'll read into the scriptures just a little bit, take poetic license with this. We read that when he had taken the 5 loaves and 2 fish, looked up to heaven, broke. This is in Mark again, and set before them, and the 2 fish he divided among them all. So let's say he took the 5 biscuits, broke them in half, gave half to each disciple. So there's 10. The 2 fish he divided to the other 2 disciples and told them to feed everybody. Let everybody take some of that. So that takes care of the 12 disciples. The boy gives his offering. The disciples give it to Jesus. Jesus receives it, thanks God for it, blesses it. Now he breaks it into different parts and gives to the disciples with the command to go and take care of the needs of the people. Each disciple probably has this little basket like, okay, this won't take long. And they go down, and not wanting to be an embarrassment, probably let's think of the little basket with a little napkin of it, cover over it, right? So reach in there and go ahead and get something to eat. Thinking, 1, 2, maybe 3 people. That's it. This one takes biscuit out. Next one takes a biscuit out. Next one takes a biscuit out. Next one takes a biscuit out. Next one, right down the line they go. Oh. The multiplication did not take place when Jesus had the 5 loaves. The multiplication did not take place when Jesus blessed it and commanded it to multiply. It did not multiply in the hands of Jesus. It says right here that he broke the 5 loaves. He broke the 5 loaves. In other words, he split it apart. He did not say, multiply, and suddenly it was like popcorn coming out of the basket. No. The multiplication took place in the hands of those who were going to go and meet the needs of a group of people. That's where the multiplication takes place. I want you to catch that. All right? So, the miracle occurred when the disciples took the provision Jesus had given back to them to use. The multiplication took place when the disciples obeyed Jesus. They could have said, Jesus, wait a minute. You got 5 biscuits. You broke them in half. So we got 10 pieces of a biscuit. That's not even enough for us to eat. And they turn and do this sweeping gesture. And you want us to take these 10 halves of a biscuit and try and give it to all of, we're going to have a riot on our hands 2 minutes from now. They didn't do that. They obeyed what Jesus told